Hello and welcome back to Defending the Windy City with David Drwencke. David is the founding partner of DRD Law, where he focuses exclusively on criminal defense in Cook County and beyond. David brings a deeper sense of purpose to every case he handles. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're starting a special three-part series inspired by Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, a framework that challenges individuals and organizations to start with why. In this first episode, we're asking the most important question of all: why does DRD law exist? This is why we fight, the purpose behind DRD law. David, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Right before we get into it, David, let's get into specifics of your practice. Let's start with the big picture. Why do you do what you do, and what's your passion for criminal defense?
Sure. Well, it always sounds kind of corny when I tell people this, or like it's part of a sales pitch, because you've heard probably some version of this before, which is I always wanted to be an attorney. I mean, from the earliest days that I can go back to preschool and what do you want to be when you grow up and what are you going to be when you're big and so forth, I always said an attorney. Even when I didn't totally understand what that job was, I wanted to be a lawyer. And as I got older, that never wavered, but I had a better appreciation for what the job was, which was representing individuals. And it's a personal calling. It's in large part how I was raised and grew up with my mom and dad and the environment I was with them. Neither of them are attorneys, but they really focused a great deal on helping others and giving back and volunteerism and the fact that, hey, we've been very blessed and taken care of. Well, then we should help others that are less fortunate and use the gifts and skills and money and time that we have to help other people. And as I got older and during my clerkship that lasted nearly 7 years, criminal defense specifically is what called to me, because it was litigating. It was in the courtroom each and every day. It was representing real people. You know, we're not talking about corporations or insurance agents or the larger companies or something like that. Like, these were individual, real people that I could, see the pain and anxiety and fear in their eyes. They're the ones that would cry on your shoulder, both happy and sad tears during the case, or depending on what kind of results you can get. And that is what gets me up in the morning, is recognizing that we have a system that I wouldn't trade for anything else. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect, and it doesn't mean that it's always geared to help my clients. But that's also what's so exciting about it, that it's thrilling to know that the deck is stacked against you and against your client, yet you can still get those results. As an uber competitive person, and that's definitely another part of just my personality, is it's so satisfying to get a result for a real person when the deck is stacked against you, when the odds are against you. It's really satisfying, and it just goes to who I am as a human being, like to my core, is to help other people, to stand up against bullies, and just to help and to lower the anxiety level and the stress level of other people. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm giving back and utilizing the skills and ability and gifts that I have to help people that are in the toughest spots of their life.
Awesome stuff. So the Golden Circle talks about finding a purpose beyond making money. How does that resonate with you when you think about your firm and your role in the justice system?
Sure. Well, and that's getting into the book, Start with Why, and Simon Sinek's book, which was so inspiring to me. And I think that was the goal. I think, if we could get Simon Sinek on the show or ask him, like, that is the goal, is to inspire people, not to just go out and do things and to make a dollar. And again, that's fine. You have to provide for your family. We have bills. There's something foundational that we can all accept and understand. But there are an awful lot of attorneys out there. There are an awful lot of whatever you can think of, service providers, of those who sell different widgets and computers and whatever. Well, what makes you different? Well, why do you do this? Why does this, and why should that matter to someone else? Because we're not necessarily a commodity. Many people feel like we are, that, well, you're a criminal defense attorney, so that is this other person I talked to down the street, so is this other person I Googled, but why hire you? And then in Simon Sinek's book and plenty of other people, it's okay, what we're doing is effectively the same. It's how we do it that's different. So then you'll talk about like features and benefits. Like, well, we use this bit of technology, or I've been an attorney for 10 years. Or somebody will then say, well, I've been an attorney for 20 years. I've tried 15 cases. I've tried 100 cases. It's like, well, how? And that doesn't not matter, but what really resonates with people, what matters to them, it's like, well, why do you do this? Like, why do you get up in the morning? Why should I trust you with probably the most important thing that's going to happen in my life, or is the most important thing in my life up until now? Especially in the most serious cases, it's like, well, why? Because I am enthusiastic about this, that I love what it is that I do. I love helping people. And it goes back to answering that first question. It's like, it was how I was raised. It's who I am as a person. And my absolute core is to stand up to bullies, is to help those that are less fortunate or find themselves in unfortunate circumstances, sometimes through no fault of their own. And that's my calling. That's why I do this, is why I represent people who are charged with the most serious offenses, and will represent people on cases that even other defense attorneys won't take that kind of case, or won't deal with that fact pattern. I will, because everybody deserves to be defended. Everybody deserves to be treated with dignity, and everybody deserves to be seen through to the other side, knowing that their rights have been protected.
Some people might assume criminal defense is about getting people off the hook, but for you, I believe it's something deeper. How do you define justice? What and why is defending the accused such a personal thing to you?
Sure. Well, because oftentimes, and I'll say this both to clients, I'll say it to my spouse and friends, is that, all but for the grace of God, like, I could be in that position, because
Right.
many of the cases I see, someone says my client did something. And I'm pausing not just for dramatic effect, like, but that is the evidence. Someone
Right.
says you did something. That's terrifying, because I can find myself in those anyone, my brother, my sister, my extended family, my aunts and uncle, they all could be in that position. My
So
closest
true.
friends can be in that position. All it takes is someone to make an allegation, for many cases, not all, but many. And
Yes.
that is terrifying. And yes, I mean, there's an ultimate result in every case. The legal speak, we're going to call it a disposition. A case has to resolve, and that's typically, it's either with a plea negotiation or going to trial, where someone's
Mhm.
found guilty or not guilty. There are some examples. Maybe we can win on a motion, or a legal technicality, or some sort of factual little, let's use the word technicality is the right way of wording it. Can that happen? Sure. And is, at the end of the day, that's what a lot of clients are concerned about, is the result. Like, hey, I don't want to go to jail. I want to minimize my time. I want to be found not guilty. And I understand that. But then, after that initial call, and you realize, once you're in the process, and the criminal justice process, not that the civil process is any faster, is slow. And that's really where that why, and the how, that also matters, of how we do what we do, matters, because it's slow, it's painful, it's frustrating, it's annoying. There's so many different adjectives that I could use to describe this, that who your attorney is and how you're treated through that process matters a great deal. And yes, at the end of the day, getting a result is what we're being paid for, what we're being hired to do, is to get that result. But how we get there and why we do what we do matters just as much, because it is a long process. We're not talking about days, oftentimes not weeks. Sometimes we're not even talking about months. It can be years. So who you're dealing with, how they do it, why they do this, lowering the anxiety level, feeling like you're being communicated with, understanding the process, being treated with respect, being treated with dignity. But of course, getting the right result matters a great deal. But in criminal defense, yes, yeah, that's what a lot of people think. It's like, well, you're just trying to get everybody off. You're just trying
Yeah.
to get not guilties. And it's, well, yeah, I'm testing the state's theory. At the end of the day, the state has brought
Mhm.
an allegation. Now they have to prove it. And that is another one of my favorite, almost daily lines. Allegations, free, easy, or cheap. It takes nothing to make an allegation, but it's very difficult in our system, or it's supposed to be, to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's, who is that bulwark between the people of the state of Illinois versus my client? Because that's the reality. You look at a case caption, it says that it's the people of the state of Illinois, everyone, police, detectives, the crime lab. It oftentimes feels like the judges, the state's attorney's office, society at large has largely made up their mind that my client is guilty, or
Yeah.
the accused is guilty. Who's the one person that's at that V, that stands between them? It's me. And that
Wow.
that is never lost on me, that it's like this
Wow.
weight of the state. is on my client and who's the only one pushing back, who's the only one who can try to balance the scales. And frankly, I tell my clients that's one of the reasons why you should hire me is the goal isn't to make this fair. I'm not going to try to balance the scales. I'm looking to tip them in your favor. And that's using the right technology and training. And again, going back to that why? Because I care and I want to get that result for you. This is why I get up at 2 a.m. and I'll re-review something for the 15th time. It's why I invest heavily both in myself and my staff and the tools that we use. There are bits of technology from AI and some other practice management tools that we're using and leveraging that I know other people don't even know exist. It's not that they're not just using them because they've chosen not to invest. They don't know they exist. So we're lapping the competition. We're much further ahead than the state's attorney. I mean, to do a very quick story, I asked a few of, I won't call them friends, but people I know in the state's attorney's office, hey, are you guys dabbling with some of this AI and some of these tools that are out there? And after they kind of wiped away the tears of laughter from their face, they said, well, no, we're not. We can't find printers that work in our office. And that hit me right away. I'm like, what a competitive advantage that we have over the state's attorney, and what an advantage we have over a lot of other private attorneys because we invest in ourselves in tools and training and software and hardware, everything, because it starts with the why and why we do this. And in order to get those results and to make sure our clients feel taken care of, well, we need to be able to be able to do this the right way for people to then get that final result that they want.
Some strong stuff. Do you need to believe your client to do what you do?
That's an excellent question. It's another one that I get all the time because there's two of them. Like, well, how do you represent somebody you know is guilty? And more often
Mm,
than not, for ethical reasons, among others, we oftentimes don't have that ultimate question where I start with, well, okay, did you do it? Like, I
right.
don't necessarily ask that question. The client's coming to me wanting representation. Oftentimes, they will tell me, listen, I did not do this. I'm not pleading guilty. This is preposterous. I don't even know why I'm here. People are lying, or the officers are making up the reasons for why they pulled me over, or they made up the reasons for why they searched me or my vehicle. It's like, okay, I hear that every single day. And unfortunately, there are a great deal of examples where my client is 100% correct. That it was nonsense. The stop had no basis. The search had no basis. Come to find out, the complaining witness or victim, depending on the kind of case we're talking about, they are pretty objectively lying. Through our investigation or through cross-examination or however we ferret this out, we learn that they are lying. So that happens a great deal. So believing my client, at least believing in their dignity and the right to be defended, that, again, I have so many lines for this stuff because I deal with it a lot. It's that I'm not worried about what you're charged with. I'm really not. It's not that it doesn't matter and I need to know what it is, but it's like, again, allegations are free and easy. I'm not worried about what they're saying you did. I am worried, I'm concerned with, and I want to focus on what can they prove? Like, what evidence do they have? Because one thing to say, well, you're involved in this murder, or you're
Right.
involved in this sex assault, or you possessed a gun when you weren't supposed to, or some other bit of contraband. It's like, well, none of those things are good. Those are all felonies. They all involve prison time. But it's like, that's the easy part. Someone said you did something you weren't supposed to do. What evidence is there that proves any of this? And
Mhm.
that getting to that foundational point that the state made the allegation, the state is now the one who has to prove this, and the state has to prove it by not just a preponderance, not clear and convincing, not any of these other burdens. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. That's my job to make sure a judge or a jury at the end of this case recognizes that the state can't meet that burden, and therefore my client should be found not guilty, or if we're going to negotiate that it's on a lesser offense, or again, trying to get my client not necessarily off. It's seeing the bigger picture of trying to make sure that this doesn't repeat itself, or keep their record clean, get them a special program to avoid jail time, but also avoid having a felony on their background. That's the part of
Mhm.
being an attorney and counselor at law that I think an awful lot of attorneys forget, or they get so into the weeds of just, it's adversarial. I'm here to win. That's my only focus. It's like, yeah, we are here to win. I don't disagree with that, but you're looking out for the client. And again, how they're treating them with respect, how you get through the process, how you get that result matters. And then being mindful of the different types of results that there are. The not guilty is always the dream. Like that's the fun part. That's the most satisfying thing I can ever get, is to be in the room and hear the words not guilty coming from the judge or the clerk's mouth or the foreperson, depending on exactly how they do things in the room. But there's plenty of other examples where it's mitigating the damages. It's getting the best possible result that may not be a not guilty, or just trying to keep a record clean, or going from a felony to a misdemeanor, or what have you. There's a lot of ways a criminal case can resolve itself, and experience goes a long way towards knowing what that realistic outcome could be. And sometimes it's a not guilty, sometimes it's winning on a technicality, and sometimes it's knowing the right program to put somebody in.
So what do you think the public misunderstands about the work that you do and the people that you know do? And how does this why help you shift that perspective?
Sure. And I think the way that I like to word it, because at cocktail parties or birthday parties or wherever I'm at, people know what I do. And I've been doing this
Yeah.
for a long time. But it's one of those questions is, how do you represent these folks? People charged with murders, people charged sex assaults. What are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. Like, what does that got to be like? What are your clients like? How do you do this? And I take a step back and I go, yes, from the outside looking in, it sounds like I'm representing and dealing with the worst people that there are. But the reality is they're all just people. They are husbands and wives, their sons, their daughters, their aunts, their uncles. And again, it's like, this may not resonate with the person I'm talking with until they are facing a charge, until their
Mm.
father or their spouse is. And I've had plenty of people come back and tell me, like, you know what? I was actually kind of giving you a hard time about your job, but now I need you. And I've gotten that call before. And it's like, yeah, because all but the grace of God, you could find yourself there. I could find myself there because allegations are so easy to make. And that everybody deserves a defense. Everybody deserves to be treated with that dignity, because at the end of the day, we're all just people. I say that all the time after a consultation, or maybe in an initial meeting with somebody who's signed the firm who might be in custody. My wife says it all the time, because I'll make a comment. I'm like, oh, hey, what a really nice guy. And it was a really pleasant conversation, and learn more about them and their family and what they were doing for employment and their future plans as far as um, education and employment, among other things. That is the truth, is that these are real people. And I make that comment to my wife after Zooms, and then she'll ask, she's, well, what's that person charged with? And, I'm not going to, of course, like, breach attorney client privilege, but I tell him, like, oh, he's charged with murder, or, he's charged with a sex assault. And she's like, you say that all the time. You're like, these people are charged with the worst of the worst things. And you always comment about, like, well, how pleasant they were, and, like, how nice or whatever. And it's like, yes, because they are human beings. They're charged with something very serious, heinous from the outside looking in, as far as what the allegations may be. But at the end of the day, they are just a human being who has found themselves in an unfortunate circumstance. And again, it bears repeating. Why are they in this circumstance? Because someone said they did something. And that could be the depth of it, that there is literally nothing else that points to their involvement, that there's not photographs or witnesses or DNA or physical evidence. There's nothing, literally nothing
Mhm.
else. Someone says they did it. So now they are finding themselves against that weight of the state again, and these very serious allegations. And they're just a human being. Every one of my clients, from those that are maybe are teenagers that had plans to go to college and are just starting their life and haven't had an opportunity to get married or have children, to those a little bit later in their lives that is their concern. Like, listen, I have children. I'm going to potentially lose my job, the ability to work, to pay my mortgage. When is the next time I'm going to see my kids or my spouse? And that resonates. That hits me. I have children. I have a spouse. That is very real to me. And again, it just goes back to that core component. Why do I do this? Because I want to
Right.
give back. I like to stand up to bullies. I want to help people through this. And it's terrifying. We have, as human beings, have a tendency to think the worst and to go to those dark places in our mind, that I'm facing a charge. My life is over. I'm going to prison. I'm never going to get a job again. All these unfortunate thoughts, not that they're not based in reality, but I try to have them take a deep breath, exhale, and just say, we're going to get you to the other side, because the odds are those worst outcomes that you're thinking about and you're Googling and learning about online, like, that's not how this is going to resolve itself. I'm here for you. Take a deep breath, keep your head up. I've got you.
So, David, if someone asked you to sum up the why behind DRD law in one sentence, what would you say?
Because we believe that every human being has dignity. we're going to stand up for that dignity to defend you, defend your rights, because we care about you as a human being, because every human being deserves that. That's why we fight. That's why we do what we do each and every day.
Wonderful stuff. David, I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Defending the Windy City with David Drwencke. Today, we explored not just what David does, but why he does it, and how the core belief shapes everything at DRD Law. If you believe you deserve a defense that's grounded in purpose, clarity, and respect, visit drdlawllc.com to connect with David and his team. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review if you found today's conversation meaningful. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.